The Sunrise Flow class at Peaceful Path Yoga Studio was Maya's favorite session to teach. Small group, quiet atmosphere, just her and 8 regular students working through gentle poses as the morning light filtered through the windows. Maya had found her calling in yoga after leaving the military, helping people find balance and tranquility. "Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth," Maya said softly, her voice carrying the kind of calm that came from years of practice. "Let go of yesterday's stress, let go of tomorrow's worries." The studio was everything Maya had dreamed of when she'd left the Marines 5 years ago. Hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the busy Riverside Shopping Plaza, and enough space for intimate classes where she could really connect with her students. Sarah, a real estate agent in her 40s, was working through a modified downward dog. "Maya, I still can't get my heels to the floor." "That's perfectly fine," Maya replied, gently adjusting Sarah's form. "Yoga isn't about perfection, it's about progress and acceptance." Maya moved between her students with the fluid grace that had made her one of the most sought-after instructors in suburban Denver. At 34, she was lean and strong, but not in an intimidating way. Her long black hair was usually pulled back in a simple bun, and she favored flowing pants and soft cotton tops. "Now slowly transition into Warrior 1, Maya instructed, demonstrating the pose with perfect form. "Feel your feet grounded, your core engaged, your spirit centered." Lisa, a stressed-out marketing executive, raised her hand. "Maya, how do you always stay so calm? I mean, you never seem rattled by anything." Maya smiled. "Practice, I suppose. I've learned that most things that upset us aren't worth the energy we give them." What Maya didn't mention was that her definition of things worth getting upset about was probably different from most people's. Traffic jams, work deadlines, relationship drama, these were minor irritations compared to what she'd experienced during her 8 years as a Marine Corps Scout sniper. "Let's move into our final sequence," Maya said, checking the clock. 7:45 a.m. The class would end at 8, just as the shopping plaza was hitting its morning rush. Through the studio windows, Maya could see the Riverside food court filling up with the usual crowd. Office workers grabbing coffee, parents with young children getting breakfast, elderly couples enjoying their morning routine. "Bring your hands to heart center," Maya instructed. "Take a moment to appreciate this peaceful start to your day." That's when the first gunshot echoed across the plaza. Maya's head snapped toward the windows with a speed and precision that startled her students. In the food court 50 yards away, she could see people running, screaming, diving under tables. A man in dark clothing was moving methodically between the seating areas, and Maya's trained eye immediately recognized the weapon he was carrying: semi-automatic rifle, military style, high-capacity magazine. While her students were still processing what they'd heard, Maya was already calculating distances, sight lines, and tactical options with the cold efficiency of someone who'd spent years making life-and-death decisions in milliseconds. "Maya, what was that?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking, as more gunshots cracked through the morning air. Maya didn't answer immediately. Her mind had shifted into a mode she hadn't accessed in 5 years, the hyper-focused state that had made her one of the most effective snipers in her unit. She was scanning the scene, counting muzzle flashes, tracking the shooter's movement pattern. "Everyone get away from the windows," Maya said. Her voice completely changed. Gone was the soft, nurturing tone of a yoga instructor. This was the voice of someone accustomed to giving orders in life-or-death situations. "Maya, you're scaring us," Lisa whispered. "Now," Maya barked, and 8 suburban women dove away from the floor-to-ceiling windows without questioning why. Maya moved to the window, staying low and using the wall for cover. Through the glass, she could see the chaos unfolding in the food court. The shooter was moving systematically, targeting anyone who tried to run. Maya counted at least 6 people down, with dozens more trapped behind overturned tables and food service counters. Her phone buzzed with an emergency alert. "Active shooter, Riverside Plaza, shelter in place." "Maya, we need to call 911, Sarah said, pulling out her phone with trembling hands. "Already done," Maya replied, though she hadn't touched her phone. She knew someone in the food court would have called within seconds of the shooting starting. Police response time will be 8 to 12 minutes. Lisa stared at her. How do you know that? Maya ignored the question. She was doing math that most civilians couldn't comprehend. 8 to 12 minutes meant at least 20 more people dead, probably more. The shooter had chosen his position well. The food court was a killing zone with limited exits and plenty of targets. There's a storage room in the back, Maya said, moving away from the window. All of you go there now. Lock the door. Don't come out until police arrive and identify themselves. What about you? Sarah asked. Maya was already moving toward her gym bag in the corner of the studio. I'll be right behind you. But she wouldn't be, because inside that gym bag, wrapped in a yoga towel, was something Maya had never thought she'd need again. As her students fled to the back room, Maya unwrapped the rifle with hands that hadn't shaken in 5 years. Her grandfather's hunting rifle, a Remington 700.308 caliber. Not the military-grade weapon she'd carried in Afghanistan, but close enough. And Maya Chen still remembered exactly how to use it. The yoga instructor was gone. In her place was Staff Sergeant Maya Chen, Marine Corps Scout Sniper, with 47 confirmed kills and a skill set that some people spent their entire lives trying to master. Maya moved back toward the window, staying low and using proper cover techniques. Through the scope, she could see the shooter clearly. Male, approximately 25 years old, tactical vest, assault rifle. He was reloading behind a concrete planter, presenting a stationary target at roughly 75 yards. Maya had made harder shots while exhausted, under fire, in sandstorms. This was almost easy. She controlled her breathing, found her natural point of aim, and placed her finger on the trigger. But something made her hesitate. This wasn't Afghanistan. This wasn't war. This was suburban Denver, and Maya Chen was supposed to be a yoga instructor who taught people about peace and mindfulness. Another gunshot echoed from the food court, and Maya saw a teenager fall. The hesitation disappeared. Maya's breathing slowed to the rhythmic pattern she'd learned 8 years ago. Inhale, exhale, natural respiratory pause. The same technique she'd used from rooftops in Helmand Province, from mountainsides in Hindu Kush, from positions so classified she still couldn't talk about them. The shooter was moving again, stalking between the tables where terrified civilians cowered. Through her scope, Maya could see his face clearly. Young, angry, methodical. He was taking his time, savoring the fear. 73 yards, slight crosswind from the east. Target moving at approximately 2 miles per hour. Maya's muscle memory took over. Her left hand found its position on the rifle's forestock. Her right index finger settled on the trigger with the same gentle pressure she'd once used for meditation poses. Her cheek pressed against the stock in exactly the same spot it had found thousands of times before. The shooter stopped behind an overturned table, scanning for his next victim. A mother was hiding underneath with her young daughter, both trembling. He raised his rifle toward them. Maya didn't hesitate. The .308 round left the barrel at 2,600 feet per second. At 73 yards, flight time was negligible. Maya watched through her scope as the bullet found its target with the precision that had once made her the most feared sniper in her battalion. The shooter dropped instantly. Clean kill shot, center mass. Maya worked the bolt, chambering another round, and swept her scope across the food court, looking for additional threats. Training had taught her that active shooter situations sometimes involved multiple perpetrators. But the plaza had gone quiet except for the screams and cries of wounded civilians. One shot, one kill. Crisis over. Maya safetied her rifle and moved away from the window. In the distance, she could hear sirens approaching. Her students were still locked in the storage room, probably wondering what the hell had just happened. Maya wrapped the rifle back in its towel and placed it in her gym bag. When the police arrived, they would find a yoga instructor who had sheltered in place just like everyone else. The shot had come from an elevated position with multiple possible vantage points. In the chaos of the aftermath, determining the exact source would be nearly impossible. She walked to the storage room and knocked softly. "It's Maya. You can come out now. The shooting has stopped." The door opened cautiously, revealing 8 frightened faces. "What happened?" Sarah asked. "We heard another gunshot." "I think someone stopped him," Maya said calmly. "The police are on their way." Lisa was staring at her with a strange expression. "Maya, where did you go? You said you'd be right behind us." "I was checking to make sure the front door was locked," Maya replied smoothly. "Making sure we were secure." It wasn't entirely a lie. She had been ensuring their security, just not in the way a yoga instructor normally would. As they waited for the police to arrive and give them the all clear, Maya guided her students through breathing exercises to help them process the trauma. Her voice was back to its usual gentle cadence, as if the last 10 minutes had never happened. But Sarah kept watching her with that strange look, and Maya wondered if her cover had been blown by something as simple as the way she'd moved when the crisis started. Some transformations, once triggered, were hard to hide. 2 hours later, the Riverside Plaza was a crime scene. Yellow tape surrounded the food court, EMTs were treating the wounded, and detectives were interviewing witnesses. Maya's yoga class had been among the first civilians questioned, since their studio overlooked the entire incident. "So you were conducting a yoga session when the shooting began?" Detective Rodriguez asked Maya for the second time. "Yes, our morning sunrise flow class. We were just finishing up when we heard the gunshots." "And then what did you do?" "I moved my students away from the windows and into the storage room for safety. We stayed there until we heard police sirens." Detective Rodriguez nodded, making notes. "Did you see anything unusual? Anyone suspicious in the plaza before the shooting started?" Maya shook her head. "Nothing out of the ordinary. Just the usual morning crowd." What Maya didn't mention was that she'd observed the scene with the trained eye of someone who'd spent years identifying threats in hostile environments. She'd noted the shooter's clothing, his movement patterns, his weapon type, and his tactical approach. But sharing those observations would raise questions she couldn't answer. "The shooter was stopped by what appears to be a single gunshot from an elevated position," Rodriguez continued. "Very precise shot, professional-level marksmanship." Maya met his eyes calmly. "I wouldn't know anything about firearms, detective. I teach yoga and meditation." As the detective walked away, Maya noticed Sarah watching her from across the studio. Their eyes met, and Sarah's expression was troubled. "Maya, can I talk to you for a minute?" Sarah asked after the other students had left. Maya's stomach tightened, but she kept her voice calm. "Of course." Sarah looked around to make sure they were alone, then spoke quietly. "Maya, I've been taking your classes for 2 years. I've never seen you move the way you moved this morning." "I'm not sure what you mean." "When the shooting started, you changed. Your voice, your posture, the way you assessed the situation. That wasn't a yoga instructor's reaction to an emergency." Maya felt her cover story crumbling, but she maintained her composure. "I think we were all in shock, Sarah. People react differently to trauma." "No, it was more than that." Sarah paused, choosing her words carefully. "My ex-husband was military, special forces. I know what it looks like when someone with combat training switches into tactical mode." Maya was quiet for a long moment, weighing her options. Sarah was intelligent, observant, and clearly not going to let this go. "Sarah, I need you to understand that some things are better left unexplored." "Are you military? Former military?" Maya sighed. "I used to be, a long time ago." "What branch?" "Marines." Sarah nodded slowly. "That explains the way you moved, the way you took command of the situation." She paused. "Maya, do you think that shooter was stopped by law enforcement? The police will conduct a thorough investigation. That's not what I asked." Maya looked out the window at the crime scene, where investigators were still trying to determine the exact sequence of events. "Sarah, sometimes bad things happen, and sometimes they get stopped before they can get worse. The how and why aren't always as important as the fact that innocent people go home safe to their families." Sarah was quiet for a moment, processing Maya's carefully worded response. "You saved those people, didn't you?" Maya turned back to face her. "I taught a yoga class. That's all anyone needs to know." Sarah studied Maya's face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I understand. Your secret is safe with me. Thank you."
"But Maya, I need you to know something. My daughter Emma goes to Roosevelt High School. She was supposed to meet friends at that food court this morning, but her first period class ran late. Maya felt a chill. Sarah? She would have been there when that man started shooting. She would have been one of his targets. Sarah's voice was shaking now. So whatever you did or didn't do this morning, just know that somewhere there's a 17-year-old girl who gets to come home tonight because of it. Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. I'm glad she's safe. We all are, and some of us know why. 3 days later, Maya was trying to return to her normal routine, but everything felt different. The shooting had made national news, and Peaceful Path Yoga Studio was receiving attention she didn't want. Reporters had called asking for interviews about the miraculous end to the tragedy, and Maya had declined them all. Her Tuesday morning class was smaller than usual. Some students were still too shaken to return, while others seemed drawn by a morbid curiosity about being so close to a major news event. Let's begin with some centering breaths, Maya said, settling into her teaching voice. Inhale peace, exhale tension. But as they moved through their poses, Maya's attention kept drifting to the news coverage playing silently on the studio's TV. The investigation into the shooting was ongoing, and the FBI had taken over from local police. The precision of the shot that ended this attack has investigators puzzled, the news anchor was saying. Ballistics experts confirm it came from an elevated position approximately 75 yards away, suggesting military-level marksmanship training. Maya adjusted Lisa's warrior pose while trying to ignore the television, but the next segment made her freeze. We're joined now by retired Marine Colonel James Patterson, a military firearms expert. Colonel, what can you tell us about this shot? The gray-haired man on screen spoke with authority. This was executed by someone with extensive sniper training. The distance, wind conditions, and precision required suggest either active military, former military, or law enforcement with specialized training. How many people in the Denver area would have this level of skill? Very few. We're talking about a select group of individuals with highly specialized training. The FBI will likely be interviewing every former military sniper in the metro area. Maya's blood ran cold. She'd been careful to avoid official attention, but she hadn't considered that the FBI might cast a wide net looking for anyone with her specific skill set. After class, Maya was cleaning up when her phone rang. Unknown number. Maya Chen? The voice was official, professional. Yes? This is Special Agent Jennifer Walsh with the FBI. I'd like to schedule a time to speak with you about the incident at Riverside Plaza. Maya's training kicked in. Stay calm, provide minimal information, don't volunteer anything. I already spoke with local police, Agent Walsh. I'm not sure what else I can add. This is just a routine follow-up interview. We're speaking with all witnesses who had a clear view of the incident. Of course. When would be convenient? How about this afternoon, say 2 p.m. at our field office? Maya checked her schedule, knowing she had no choice. I'll be there. After hanging up, Maya sat in her empty studio and considered her options. The FBI interview was a fishing expedition, but a dangerous one. They were looking for someone with her exact background, and if they asked the right questions, her cover story might not hold up. She could run, disappear like she'd been trained to do, start over somewhere else with a new identity. But that would mean abandoning the life she'd built, the student she cared about, the peace she'd found after years of war. Or she could stay and hope that 5 years of living as a yoga instructor had buried Staff Sergeant Maya Chen deep enough that even the FBI couldn't find her.
The FBI field office in downtown Denver was exactly what Maya expected. Sterile, imposing, designed to intimidate. She'd been in similar buildings in Washington, D.C. during her military service, but walking in as a civilian subject of investigation felt entirely different. Ms. Chen, thank you for coming in, Special Agent Walsh said, leading Maya to a small interview room. Walsh was in her early 40s, professional but not unfriendly. I know this has been a difficult week for everyone involved. Happy to help however I can, Maya replied, settling into the metal chair across from Walsh. I understand you teach yoga at Peaceful Path Studio? That's correct. I've been there for 3 years. And before that, Maya had rehearsed this conversation. I traveled for a while after college, did some soul searching, found my way to yoga and meditation. What did you study in college? Liberal arts? University of Colorado. Walsh made notes, then looked up. Ms. Chen, I'm going to be direct with you. We're looking for someone with very specific skills. The shot that ended the Riverside Plaza attack was made by someone with extensive military sniper training. Maya kept her expression neutral. I see. Have you ever served in the military? No, I haven't. Any family members with military backgrounds? My grandfather served in World War II. Army infantry. Walsh nodded. The reason I'm asking is that we've identified approximately 47 individuals in the Denver metro area with the training necessary to make that shot. We're interviewing all of them. Maya felt a chill. If they had a list, and if they'd done their homework, her name might be on it. That seems like a very specialized skill set, Maya said carefully. It is. Marine Scout snipers, Army Special Forces, Navy SEALs, certain law enforcement units. Walsh paused, watching Maya's reaction. The thing is, Ms. Chen, most of these individuals are still active duty or recently separated. Someone with that training who's been living quietly as a civilian for several years would be very unusual. Maya nodded sympathetically. It sounds like you have a challenging investigation. We do. Especially since whoever made that shot seems to have disappeared afterward. No witnesses saw anyone with a rifle. No security cameras captured the actual shooter. They probably left immediately, Maya suggested. I would think someone like that would want to avoid attention. Walsh smiled slightly. That's exactly what we think happened. Someone with professional training and tactical withdrawal. The interview continued for another 20 minutes, covering Maya's background, her whereabouts during the shooting, and her observations from the studio. Maya answered every question truthfully while revealing nothing that could connect her to military service. One last question, Ms. Chen. On the morning of the shooting, several witnesses mentioned that you seemed unusually calm and took charge of the situation quickly. Can you explain that? Maya had expected this question. I've studied meditation and mindfulness for years, Agent Walsh. In crisis situations, those practices help me stay centered and think clearly. That's admirable. Most people panic. Fear doesn't help anyone. I wanted to keep my students safe. Walsh closed her notebook. Thank you for your time. If we have follow-up questions, we'll be in touch. 2 weeks after the FBI interview, Maya thought the investigation had moved on. The news coverage had died down, the crime scene tape had been removed, and life at Riverside Plaza was slowly returning to normal. Her yoga classes were back to full capacity, and she was beginning to believe she'd successfully weathered the storm. That changed on a Thursday morning when Maya arrived at the studio to find Agent Walsh waiting in the parking lot. Ms. Chen, I'm sorry to bother you so early, Walsh said, approaching with a file folder in her hand. But something has come to our attention that I'd like to discuss. Maya's pulse quickened, but she kept her voice calm. Of course. Would you like to come inside? They entered the empty studio, and Walsh got straight to the point. We've been analyzing the trajectory of the shot that killed the gunman. Based on the angle and entry wound, we've narrowed down the possible firing position significantly. Maya began setting up for her morning class, trying to appear unconcerned. That sounds very technical. It is. And here's the interesting part. One of the most likely positions is right here, from your studio window. Maya's hands stilled on the yoga mats she was arranging. Really? The angle is perfect. Clear line of sight, elevated position, approximately the right distance. Walsh walked to the window and looked out at the food court. Someone firing from here would have had an ideal shot. I suppose they would, Maya agreed. But as I told you, my students and I were in the storage room during the shooting. Yes, about that. Walsh opened her file. I've been reviewing the witness statements from your students. Most of them confirm that you led them to the storage room, but there are some inconsistencies. Maya continued setting up mats, forcing herself to maintain normal movements. What kind of inconsistencies? Sarah Morrison mentioned that you didn't come to the storage room immediately. She said you told them you'd be right behind them, but you didn't arrive for several minutes. I was making sure the front door was secure, Maya said, repeating her previous explanation. That's what you told me before. But Ms. Morrison also mentioned something else. She said your demeanor changed completely when the shooting started. Quote, "It was like watching a different person take over." Maya felt the walls closing in, but her training kicked in. Stay calm, stick to the story, don't volunteer information. I think Sarah may be misremembering things, Agent Walsh. Traumatic events can distort perception and memory. That's true. Trauma can play tricks on witnesses. Walsh paused, studying Maya's face. But you know what's interesting? We found something else. Maya's heart was pounding, but she kept arranging yoga props with steady hands. We recovered the bullet that killed the shooter. .308 caliber, match-grade ammunition, very specific type of round typically used by precision shooters. I wouldn't know anything about that, Maya said. Of course not. But here's the thing. We also found trace evidence of gunpowder residue in this studio. Very faint, barely detectable, but definitely present. Maya's mind raced. She'd been careful, but not careful enough. Even the best sniper couldn't eliminate all forensic evidence in a civilian environment. I'm not sure what that means, Maya said, but she could hear the slight tension creeping into her voice. It means someone fired a weapon in this room recently. Walsh set down her file and looked directly at Maya. Ms. Chen, I'm going to be completely honest with you. We know you took that shot. Maya felt her carefully constructed cover story crumbling, but there was also relief in finally being confronted with the truth. How long have you known? Maya asked. About a week. The gunpowder residue was the final piece, but we'd already narrowed it down pretty significantly. Walsh leaned back. What gave you away was the precision. There are maybe a dozen people in the entire state who could have made that shot under those conditions. Maya sat down across from her. And how many of those dozen are former Marine Scout snipers currently working as yoga instructors? Just one, as far as we can tell. Maya laughed despite herself. I guess I wasn't as invisible as I thought. Oh, you were very good at hiding. It took us 2 weeks and significant resources to piece it together. If you hadn't left the gunpowder residue, we might never have connected it to you. So what happens now? Walsh was quiet for a moment. That depends on several factors. Why don't you tell me your real story? Maya looked out the window, weighing how much to reveal. Staff Sergeant Maya Chen, Marine Corps Scout Sniper, 2010 to 2018, 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq, 47 confirmed kills, all in combat situations. Why did you leave the Marines? I was tired of killing people, Agent Walsh. Even when they deserved it, I wanted to find something that built life instead of taking it. So you became a yoga instructor. Seemed like the complete opposite of what I'd been doing, teaching peace instead of war, healing instead of hurting. Walsh nodded. But when you saw that gunman, I saw innocent people about to die. I saw a teenage girl in his crosshairs. I saw mothers hiding with their children. Maya's voice grew quieter. In that moment, all my training came back, muscle memory. You didn't hesitate? For about 2 seconds. I tried to convince myself it wasn't my responsibility anymore. But then I realized that if I had the ability to save those people and I chose not to act, their deaths would be on me. Walsh made notes in her file. Walk me through what happened. Maya described the shooting in detail, her tactical assessment, the shot placement, the aftermath. Walsh listened without interrupting, occasionally asking for clarification on technical details. The weapon you used, we haven't been able to locate it, Walsh said. It's gone, disposed of safely and legally. Where? Maya shook her head. That's not information I'm willing to share. Walsh seemed to accept this. Ms. Chen, I need to ask you directly. Are you currently involved in any classified or covert operations? No, I've been a yoga instructor for 5 years. That's my only job. Any contact with your former unit or military intelligence? None. Walsh closed her notebook. Here's where we stand. Technically, you discharged a firearm within city limits without proper permits. You also failed to report your involvement in a federal investigation. Maya nodded, understanding the legal jeopardy she faced. However, Walsh continued, you acted in defense of others during an active shooter situation. Under Colorado law, your actions were legally justified. The district attorney has already indicated that no charges will be filed. Maya felt a wave of relief. So I'm not going to jail? No, but there are conditions. What kind of conditions? Maya asked. Walsh reopened her file. First, this conversation and your involvement remain classified. The official record will show that the shooter was killed by an unknown individual who has not been identified. I can live with that. Second, you'll need to register your change of address if you move and maintain contact with our office for the next 2 years. Maya nodded. Anything else? Walsh stood up and extended her hand. Just this. Thank you. Those 23 people went home to their families because of what you did. As they shook hands, Maya realized that her carefully hidden past hadn't destroyed her new life. It had validated it. There is one more thing, Ms. Chen, Walsh said as they reached the door. We've learned that this shooting wasn't an isolated incident. The FBI and Homeland Security have identified a network of potential attackers being trained and equipped by domestic terrorist groups. Maya felt a chill. How many? Dozens, possibly hundreds. They're targeting schools, shopping centers, hospitals, anywhere they can maximize civilian casualties. And you're telling me this because people with your skills might be needed again. Not officially, of course, but if another situation develops, Maya understood the implication. You want me to be ready. I want you to be aware, and I want you to know that if circumstances require it, your actions would have official support. After Walsh left, Maya sat alone in her studio thinking about what she'd learned. The shooting at Riverside Plaza hadn't been random. It was part of a larger campaign of terror, and there would likely be more attacks. She thought about Emma, Sarah's daughter, about all the children who went to school every day, trusting that they were safe, about the families who gathered in shopping centers and restaurants, never suspecting that they might be targets. Maya had spent 8 years fighting terrorists overseas to protect American civilians. Now the threat was domestic, and the battlefield was in her own backyard. That afternoon, Maya taught her regular class, but her mind was elsewhere. As her students moved through their poses, she found herself unconsciously scanning the plaza outside, looking for threats, identifying potential shooting positions, calculating response times. Old habits died hard. Maya, are you okay? Sarah asked after class. You seem distracted. Maya looked at her friend and student, knowing that Sarah's daughter was alive because Maya had been willing to kill. I'm fine, just thinking about things. Good things or bad things? Maya considered the question. In her gym bag, she now carried a different rifle, a more compact model, easier to conceal but just as effective. She'd obtained it legally, along with all the proper permits, just in case. Necessary things, Maya said finally. Sarah studied her face. Maya, whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're preparing for, just remember that you're not alone. Some of us know who you really are, and we're grateful. Maya smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders once again. She'd tried to leave the warrior behind, but the world wouldn't let her. Maybe that was okay. Maybe being a protector was something you never really stopped being. 6 months later, Maya was teaching her Saturday morning advanced class when her phone buzzed with an emergency alert. Not the usual weather warning or Amber Alert. This was something different. A coded message that only a handful of people would recognize. Sunrise protocol activated. Confirmation required. Maya's blood ran cold. Agent Walsh had explained the Sunrise protocol during one of their follow-up meetings. It was an early warning system for coordinated terrorist attacks, activated only when intelligence indicated imminent threats to multiple civilian targets. I need to step out for a moment, Maya told her class, trying to keep her voice calm. Continue with your flow sequence. In the hallway, Maya called the number Walsh had given her. It's happening, Walsh said without preamble. 3 confirmed teams, possibly more. Denver is one of the targets. Where? We don't know yet. Intelligence suggests coordinated attacks on soft targets, schools, shopping centers, religious facilities. They're planning maximum casualties. Maya felt her training kick in. What do you need from me? Stand by. If we identify a situation where your skills could make a difference, we'll contact you immediately. How much time do we have? Based on intercepted communications, the attacks could begin within hours. Maya returned to her class, but everything had changed. She was no longer just a yoga instructor teaching suburban women. She was a weapon in waiting, ready to deploy against threats that law enforcement might not be able to stop in time. Her phone buzzed again. Sarah was texting from Emma's high school track meet. Weird security at the school today. Lots of police. Everything okay? Maya's stomach dropped. If law enforcement was increasing security at schools, they had specific intelligence about potential targets. She typed back, "Stay alert. Keep Emma close. Trust your instincts." For the next 3 hours, Maya taught classes while monitoring emergency frequencies on her phone. Reports were coming in from around the country, attempted attacks in Seattle, Philadelphia, and Atlanta, all stopped by law enforcement, but barely. At 2:30 p.m., her phone rang. Walsh. "We have a situation. Roosevelt Elementary School. 3 armed suspects approaching the building. SWAT is en route but won't arrive for 8 minutes. Maya's heart stopped. Roosevelt Elementary was 6 blocks away, the same school that would have been the Riverside Plaza shooter's next target. "I'm moving," Maya said, already heading for her car. "Maya, wait for backup. Don't go in alone." But Maya was already running. In her car was the compact rifle she'd been carrying since the FBI investigation. She'd hoped never to use it, but she'd prepared for this exact scenario. 8 minutes was too long. In 8 minutes, 3 armed men could kill dozens of children. Maya drove toward Roosevelt Elementary with the cold focus of someone who'd done this before. But this time, she wasn't protecting strangers in a foreign country. She was protecting her neighbors, her community, her students' children. This time, it was personal. As she turned onto Roosevelt Avenue, Maya could see the school in the distance. A normal Tuesday afternoon. Children playing on the playground, teachers supervising, parents arriving for pickup. None of them knew that 3 armed men were approaching with the intent to kill as many as possible. Maya parked 2 blocks away and moved on foot, using her training to approach unseen. She carried the rifle in a gym bag, moving like a concerned parent rather than a tactical operator. From her position behind a row of parked cars, Maya could see the 3 suspects. They were dressed in maintenance uniforms, carrying what appeared to be tool bags. But Maya's trained eye recognized the outline of weapons beneath their clothing. They were 200 yards from the school entrance. Children were still outside. Maya found a position with clear sight lines and began her mental calculations. 3 targets, approximately 150 yards, no wind, bright daylight. The challenge wasn't the shooting. It was taking all 3 before they could return fire or reach the school. Her phone buzzed. Walsh. SWAT ETA 5 minutes. Do not engage until backup arrives. Maya looked at the playground full of children and made her decision. 5 minutes was too long. She called Walsh. "I have eyes on 3 suspects approaching Roosevelt Elementary. They're armed and moving toward the school." "Maya, wait for SWAT." "Negative. Children are in immediate danger." Maya ended the call and focused on her targets. 3 quick shots, center mass, maximum precision, just like the training scenarios she'd run hundreds of times in the Marines. But this wasn't training. This was real, and failure meant dead children. Maya controlled her breathing, found her firing position, and prepared to become a warrior one more time. Maya's first shot dropped the lead suspect before he could clear the school parking lot. The .308 round found its target at 150 yards, with the same precision that had made her legendary in Afghanistan. The second suspect spun toward the sound of the gunshot, giving Maya a clear profile shot. She worked the bolt and fired again. Another clean kill. The third suspect had better training. He immediately went to ground behind a parked car and began returning fire with an automatic weapon. Maya could hear bullets snapping over her head as she repositioned. Children on the playground were screaming and running toward the school building. Teachers were shepherding them inside, following lockdown procedures, but the third gunman was already moving toward the main entrance. Maya flanked left, using parked cars for cover. She needed an angle that would allow her to take the shot without risking students or teachers in the background. The gunman reached the school entrance and began firing through the glass doors. Maya could see muzzle flashes inside the building. He was already engaging targets. Maya found her position, prone behind a concrete planter, 75 yards to target, slight upward angle. She had a clear shot, but the background was the school building with children inside. This shot had to be perfect. Maya controlled her breathing and settled into the kind of meditative focus that her yoga training had actually enhanced. The noise of sirens, screaming, and gunfire faded away. There was only the target, the rifle, and the shot. She squeezed the trigger. The third gunman dropped in the school doorway. 3 shots, 3 kills, threat eliminated. Maya immediately safetied her weapon and moved away from her firing position. SWAT would arrive in minutes, and she needed to disappear before they began searching for the sniper who'd stopped the attack. As she reached her car, Maya's phone rang. Walsh. Status report? 3 suspects down. No civilian casualties. Threat neutralized. Maya, that was incredible shooting. You saved hundreds of lives. Maya started her car and began driving away from the scene. I did what needed to be done. The children in that school are going home to their families tonight because of you. Maya thought about Emma, about Sarah's gratitude after the plaza shooting, about all the mothers who would never know how close they'd come to losing their children. That's all that matters, Maya said. As she drove back toward her studio, Maya realized that she'd found her true calling. Not just as a yoga instructor, not just as a former Marine, but as something in between, a guardian who could live peacefully until peace wasn't enough. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Everything okay at Emma's school? Heard sirens? Maya typed back. Everything's fine. Your daughter is safe. And for the first time in months, Maya truly meant it. She was exactly where she needed to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do. Some people taught peace, some people fought wars. Maya Chen did both, and she was finally comfortable with that duality. 2 weeks later, Maya was surprised to find Agent Walsh waiting at her studio again. But this time, she wasn't alone. A man in a military uniform stood beside her, an older Marine with stars on his collar. Ms. Chen, Walsh said, I'd like you to meet General Harrison, Deputy Commandant of the Marine Corps. Maya felt her heart rate spike. Generals didn't visit yoga studios unless something significant was happening. Staff Sergeant Chen, the general said, using her former rank. May we come in? They sat in Maya's studio while the general explained why he'd come to Denver. The Roosevelt Elementary incident has been classified at the highest levels, he began. Officially, the 3 suspects were killed by a SWAT sniper who wishes to remain anonymous. Maya nodded. I understand. But unofficially, your actions have been noted by people at the very highest levels of government. 3 coordinated attacks were prevented that day, but yours was the only one stopped before any civilians were harmed. I was in the right place at the right time. No, Sergeant. You were a highly trained warrior who chose to act when action was needed. The general leaned forward. We'd like to offer you something. Maya felt a familiar weight settling on her shoulders. What kind of something? A return to active duty. Not as a regular Marine, but as part of a special program we're developing to counter domestic terrorism threats. Walsh opened a folder. We're creating a network of highly skilled individuals who can respond to threats that traditional law enforcement can't handle quickly enough. You want me to be an assassin, Maya said flatly. We want you to be a guardian, the general corrected. Someone who can live a normal civilian life until called upon to protect innocent Americans from threats that require your unique skills. Maya looked around her studio, the place where she'd found peace, where she'd built a new life, where she taught people to find balance and tranquility. What would this involve? You'd continue your current life, teaching yoga, living in Denver, maintaining your cover. But you'd be on call for situations like Roosevelt Elementary, times when minutes matter and specialized skills can save lives. And my students? My life here would continue unchanged except for the knowledge that you're serving your country in a way that few people can. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Can I think about it? Of course, the general said. But Ms. Chen, I want you to understand something. What you did at Riverside Plaza and Roosevelt Elementary, that saved 347 lives. 347 people went home to their families because you were willing to act. After they left, Maya sat alone in her studio thinking about the number. 347 lives, children, parents, teachers, shoppers, all alive because she'd been willing to pick up a rifle when necessary. That evening, Sarah came to the studio for a private conversation. I know something happened at Emma's school, Sarah said, and I know you were involved somehow. Maya didn't deny it. How do you know? Because you had that same look on your face that you had after the Plaza shooting, like someone who'd just carried a heavy burden. Maya smiled sadly. It is a heavy burden. But it's your burden, isn't it? This is what you do. It's what I've been asked to do. Sarah reached out and took Maya's hand. Then do it. Emma came home safe that day, and so did 400 other children. If you can keep doing that, then you should. Even if it means I'm not really the peaceful yoga instructor I pretend to be. Maya, you are peaceful. You're just not passive. There's a difference. That night, Maya called Agent Walsh. I'll do it, she said, but I have conditions. Name them. I maintain my civilian life and identity. I choose which situations to engage, and I want input on targeting. I won't be anyone's mindless weapon. Agreed. Maya looked out her window at the peaceful suburban street where families live their lives in safety, protected by people they'd never meet. When do I start? You already have. Welcome to the invisible war, Maya. 1 year later, Maya stood before her largest yoga class ever. Word had spread through the community about the calming presence of the instructor at Peaceful Path Studio, and her classes were consistently booked solid. Today we're going to focus on the warrior poses, Maya began, moving into Warrior 1 with perfect form. These poses teach us that strength and peace can coexist. As her students flowed through the sequence, Maya's phone remained silent on the bench beside her mat. No emergency alerts, no calls from Agent Walsh, no urgent situations requiring her other skills. For 3 months now, Denver had been quiet. But Maya knew the peace was temporary. In her gym bag, carefully concealed, was the compact rifle that had become as much a part of her equipment as yoga blocks and straps. She'd used it twice more since Roosevelt Elementary, once to stop a planned attack on a shopping mall, once to prevent a mass shooting at a concert venue. Each time she'd acted quickly, efficiently, and invisibly. Each time, dozens of lives had been saved by skills she'd learned as a Marine and maintained through the discipline she'd found in yoga. Now, transition into Warrior 3, Maya instructed. Feel yourself balanced between strength and grace. After class, Sarah approached her as usual. Over the past year, their friendship had deepened into something more like a partnership. Sarah had become Maya's unofficial liaison with the community, someone who could provide information about local threats and help maintain her cover story. Everything quiet today? Sarah asked. So far, Maya replied, checking her phone. How's Emma? Good, starting her senior year next month. She wants to study criminal justice in college. Maya smiled. I wonder what inspired that career choice. She says she wants to help keep people safe, says there are heroes in the world who work behind the scenes and she wants to be one of them. Maya felt a surge of pride mixed with concern. Sarah, she doesn't know specifics, but she knows that some people dedicate their lives to protecting others, and she wants to be part of that. As they talked, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Walsh. Possible situation developing. Stay alert. Maya's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, but Sarah caught it. Go, Sarah said simply. Do what you need to do. Maya packed her gear and headed home to await further instructions. In her apartment, she changed from yoga clothes into darker, more tactical attire. The rifle was cleaned and ready, her shooting position already scouted for 3 potential target areas in her sector of the city. Her phone rang. Walsh. Stand down. False alarm. Suspicious individual was just a nervous father picking up his kids from school. Maya felt relief wash over her. Copy that. Maya, how are you holding up? This lifestyle, it's not easy. Maya looked around her apartment, yoga mats in one corner, precision shooting equipment in another, photos of her students on the wall next to tactical maps of the city. I'm managing, Maya said. Some days I teach people to find inner peace. Other days I protect their ability to live peacefully. It's not the life I planned, but it's the life I was meant to live. Any regrets? Maya thought about the question. A year ago, she'd been a simple yoga instructor trying to forget her warrior past. Now she was both a teacher of peace and a guardian of it, living in a balance that few people could understand or maintain. No regrets, Maya said finally. Just gratitude that I can serve in both ways. After hanging up, Maya returned to her studio for the evening class. As her students arrived, she felt the familiar sense of purpose that came from knowing she was exactly where she belonged. Tonight, let's work on finding balance, Maya said as they began. The balance between action and stillness, between strength and peace, between who we are and who we're called to be. As she guided them through the poses, Maya realized she was no longer teaching concepts she'd read about or learned from others. She was teaching from lived experience, the hard-won wisdom of someone who'd found a way to be both warrior and healer, protector and teacher. Outside the studio windows, the city continued its evening rhythm, families having dinner, children playing, people living their lives in safety. Most would never know that their peace was protected by invisible guardians like Maya Chen, people who'd found a way to serve both war and peace. And Maya was finally completely at peace with that responsibility.